On this episode of Locked On Lightning, we are talking retro reverse jerseys. Are they good? Are there bad ones? We talk about that, as well as the Lightning look to bounce back from a less than ideal loss at home to the Philadelphia Flyers. What can they do differently? We talk about all that and more, but first, let's play that music.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up again? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I just want to thank all of you for making us your first listen of the day. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for making us your first watch of the day. Hit that notification button down low so as soon as the newest episode drops, you are well aware and you are on your way to watching. On this episode of Locked On Lightning, we are talking retro reverse jerseys. Are they good? Are they bad? There's some Lightning fans out there that don't like them, surprisingly enough. And there's some out there like this guy that love them. We talk about some of the good, the bad, and even the ugly, as well as what the Lightning can do to bounce back from their nightmare of a home opener to the Philadelphia Flyers. Because you know what? We'll start right there. Because if you listen to the last episode or watched, I was out of control with my rant. I haven't had I guess almost borderline psychological breakdown such as that on this show in quite some time. It's been at least a couple of years since I've really killed the Lightning on a performance from a game. We spoke about in the last episode, and I did not hold back, and I still stay true to what I said before. This team kind of in some way just was content with a 2-goal lead. And as we know, a 2-goal lead in the NHL is really nothing. We've seen goals scored faster in the amount of time it takes to lose a game. And really the Lightning need to bounce back from this. They have a tough schedule, and they cannot afford to put out more performances like this as they get deeper and deeper into this schedule. Because if you look at their schedule for the rest of October as well as the beginning of November, asking this team to turn it around at this point in the season, and yes, am I overreacting a little bit? Just a little bit. But we're 4 games in, and you're asking this team, all right, you're going to go out there, you're going to play the Cats on Friday. Yes, you have the Islanders right after that at home, but then you're going to the West Coast and playing 3 very tough teams. And yes, even though the San Jose Sharks are statistically one of the worst teams in the NHL right now, anytime an East Coast team goes out to the West, it's always a tough task to ask those guys to play a little bit later than what they're used to, given the time difference. So, we're not going to dive too deep into that with those West Coast games just yet. We're going to focus on the task ahead of us, and that is the Florida Panthers, the Lightning's in-state rivals and division rivals. And really looking at this game, I'm nervous because even if the Lightning weren't as top heavy, and if some of you who are new to the game of hockey, thank you for joining us and making the Lightning your team to root for. Top heavy, they really have all their good players on the first 2 lines. And that I was talking to my Locked On NHL host earlier tonight, my co-host Chris Masilli from Locked On Avs for the Thursday spot. That episode drops tonight as well, so go ahead and look at that. And I was talking about the Lightning. The Lightning dropped in our network rankings from the number 2 spot all the way down to 15, and for good reason. And I told him this during the episode tonight, as well as during the summer and coming into the season, the Lightning aren't going to be that good. If you've been listening to this podcast, at least since the summer, this should be no, new kind of view that I have on the team. I was very adamant in the way I was describing this team when we were doing our previews, that this team isn't going to be that good. Yes, they'll probably figure it out at some point in the season, but the first couple of weeks are going to be a little bit rough for Lightning Nation. And we've seen that, 1-3, and their most recent loss was probably the worst of the season, the worst I have seen, at least in my 3 years. Actually, it's almost 3 years and 4 seasons hosting this show. Now my 4th season. And what we saw in that game was, really nothing new from this Lightning team. So John Cooper is going to have to go out there and really try and mix things up. I said on the last couple episodes, I said going into this season that, yeah, you may not like the way that the lines look on any given night. And they're not concrete. Yeah, a lot of people love seeing Stamkos, Kucherov, and Point out there. But at the end of the day, that's not set in stone. And really, that's what Lightning fans need to remember is that even if a line is working on, let's say he rolls out Point, Cooch, and Perry, we're not saying that's going to be an actual line. I would actually be interested to see how that would work. But that's not going to be set in stone. Even if it's mildly successful at best, that's not necessarily going to be something that we're going to see Saturday night, win, lose from Friday night's game. So I think that's what's going to be the key for this Panthers game. And we've seen on past games against these two teams that they're going to be very hard fought. The games, as really any very highly competitive physical game, is that these games are going to be won in the corners. They're going to be won along the boards. And, this could be easily a 2-1 game. And that's how in the past I would have viewed a matchup like this. But at the way that the Lightning have been playing as of late, and like I said, yeah, 4 games is a little bit premature of a time frame to really condemn this team. But you know what? This team, when you look at what they have done over the last couple of years as opposed to what they're doing in the last week or so, it's a complete 180. And I said on the last episode, if you're not concerned, you should be, because this could be easily turned around, or this could continue to go the way it's going, and then we could be having the conversation by Thanksgiving, thinking that this team is in danger of possibly missing the playoffs. But Friday's going to be a good get me back game against, like I said, a team that they always play hard against, they always play tough against, and really a team that forces you to get back to the fundamentals of the game. And I really think that's going to be something that is really going to play in their favor if they do win this game, because they're going to be forced to really simplify things and really be forced to mix things up. We saw a lot of that early on in the game against the Flyers, which was great. I said on the last episode, I thought they were doing a lot of things very good, and that's why they jumped out to a 2-0 lead. But then they stopped doing that, and they kind of just let the Flyers dictate the flow of the game, and that's what really worked against them. And that's why it frustrates me so much when I talk about this team and all the times they lose, because it's not like we're losing games in which the other team was better, flat out better. The only game like I said, that really where the case was that the team was the better team was first game of the season against the New York Rangers. And that was it. That's all we saw. And then the other games have they've just been death by 1,000 paper cuts, really, as the game goes on. So really, you need to have the Lightning go out there and have a good performance. And like I said, we're still I'm gonna hammer this home until it's not true anymore. It's very early on in the season, but the Lightning, for them right now, this Friday game is going to be a must-win game for them. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this team responds. This could dictate how things go in California. I'm not really looking at the Islander game. I don't, like I said, until they prove me wrong, I don't look at them as a legitimate threat. Yeah, they're going to be somewhat better this season, but I don't expect them to make the playoffs anytime soon. Are they going to play the Lightning tough? Yeah, but I still fully expect, after all the issues I just listed out for this team, I still fully expect them to win that game. The game that I still think, though, is a must-win game is going to be against the Florida Panthers. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that on tomorrow's episode. We're probably gonna get out a recap episode at some point, probably after the game. Obviously, it's gonna be sometime late Friday night, maybe into Saturday morning, depending on how late the game goes. Stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe to our social media pages, and we'll keep you updated from there. But in the next segment, we'll be talking about the reverse retro jerseys. They dropped today for all 32 teams. How do you like them? How do we like them? What do I like? What are my haves? What are my have-nots? We'll talk about all of that and more. But first, I'm going to talk about today's sponsor, and that is BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for your betting needs everywhere for all sports, whether it be football, NHL, NBA, or Major League Baseball. The playoffs are in full swing, so got to go ahead, bet on those Astros, because me being a Met fan, it is absolutely painful to see the Yankees still in it, the Phillies still in it, and the Padres still in it. So I am just all in on the Astros bandwagon. I'm not going to bet on the Astros though, because I have the worst luck with betting. I haven't won a bet since July, so that tells you where I'm at right now. I am down bad. But you could go ahead and set a bet on the Astros, please, at betonline.net. And as always, BetOnline remains all your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. So before we get into reverse retros, I want to thank everybody for your continued support of this show. And please go ahead and like and subscribe to this podcast. Wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form, we are there. And most importantly, we are free. Go ahead to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button down low and drop a thumbs up, of course, not a thumbs down, thumbs up. You want to help us grow, hit that 500 mark, and most importantly, that 1,000 subscriber mark. And we could only do it with your help. And go ahead and follow us on our social media platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, look at the ticker below. If you're following us on an audio platform, we are at LO_lightning on Twitter, as well as locked_lightning on Instagram. Give me a follow on Twitter at dankydank, DENK8, DENKY, D8NK. Don't worry, one of these seasons or episodes, I'll get my own Twitter handle right. So stay tuned for that development as it goes on. You know, I think at some point I'm just going to buy a shirt that just has the Twitter handle on front, because I can't even get it right. And I'm the one who made the Twitter handle. So, you know, looking at the reverse retro jerseys, because this is something that for the most part, every team got right. Now, if you want to follow along, go on ESPN.com to Greg Wyshynski's list that he came out today about that. And by the way, if you want to dive back through the archives, we had Greg on the show not too long ago. I believe he's been on the show twice now. Always love talking to Greg. We got to get him back on probably around the All-Star break. So stay tuned for that episode. So he ranked Florida, San Jose, Montreal, Los Angeles, and Colorado in the top 5. And when I was talking about these on the Locked On NHL show tonight with Chris Masilli, I don't really think anybody got these wrong. Are there some that are kind of head scratchers, as like, you could have done better, or you could have done this? You know, why couldn't you just build on what you had last year? And really, there wasn't really any teams that did a bad job, except, you know, if you look at Detroit, and if you want to follow more about that, but I'm going to talk about the Lightning in just a bit. But if you want to look at that more, we kind of had a good laugh about this on that episode, me and Chris. Detroit and Chicago just look like away and home versions of each other, minus the city name. So that was funny. But looking at Tampa's jerseys for this year, I saw some mixed emotions about this on Lightning Twitter earlier today when it was announced that they dropped. And surprisingly enough, I saw a lot more negative comments than I saw positive. And it's kind of a head scratcher for me. Now, ideally, would you have wanted what the Lightning put out last year for this year to kind of coincide with the 30th anniversary of this franchise? Absolutely. I think that would have been great. But, you know, with the reverse retros, it's kind of go big or go home. And I'm sure the Lightning will at some point bring some sort of iteration of that back, what they had from last year. And I'm sure they'll wear it at some point this year alongside with the stadium jerseys that they had last year, which were sick, by the way. I really wish they had those as kind of like an alternate jersey full time, especially with the bolt on the side of the helmet. But these are cool. And Chris made a good point, and I obviously had to agree with him, because if it's anybody that knows jerseys and knows a good jersey when they see him, it's Chris. this really signifies and really brings to life the vibe that was the Tampa Bay Lightning's jersey in the 90s. This is from the 97 season. You have the lightning bolts on the side, it's gray on top with the lightning bolts and all that going on at the bottom with the black half sleeves and the gray shoulders. I love it. And I think it really signifies 90s hockey. And I really hope at one point, and this kind of reminds me back to what Major League Baseball did with throwback. I think it was turn back the clock night. I think that's what it was called. And I would love to see some sort of throwback night in a way with Tampa, especially because, Tampa was one of those teams where when they came out, they were, I don't think a lot of people thought they were going to be as successful of a franchise. And you know the joke, or at least what the almost the mantra has been over the last couple of seasons with Steven Stamkos especially, is that Tampa is a hockey town now, and most importantly now a championship town. And everybody knows the controversial comments that Michael Wilbon from ESPN made last year, which was still very strange to me to this day, that he would say something about the defending champions when the company he works for just signs a multi-million-dollar deal to televise on a nightly basis games from that sport, especially that team who's going to be on almost every night on that channel. So, saying that it's not a sport, the people there don't even, really know that Tampa's a team. And I don't think anybody told them what was going on in Tampa at that time. So, oh well. But I love these jerseys. I love these jerseys. And let me know in the comments below what you think about them. I would hope that they wear them. I hope it stays. I hope that eventually the NHL will go on to kind of make this a usual thing, not like the stale kind of home away jersey. Give the teams a little bit more freedom to choose what they want. And I would like to see maybe in the future, because remember, Adidas is not going to be the jersey sponsor or the jersey manufacturer of hockey jerseys after this season. So it's going to be interesting to see if I don't know if it's been announced yet. I haven't seen anything. Maybe Nike will get into the game of making hockey jerseys. That would be pretty cool. They've done, I would say, a halfway decent job with Major League Baseball in terms of designs for certain teams. I'm very curious to see what they would do if Nike were to get into the conversation or get into the game of making hockey jerseys and being the primary jersey manufacturer of the National Hockey League, because you grab this reverse retro and you mix it with last year's, I think you have a pretty sick jersey on your hands. I would imagine maybe throw a little bit of the Stadium Series in it. So I'm looking forward to the Lightning breaking these out. Hopefully, they find out, they see that this is such a success. I hope people come around and really start to really like these as they're being worn on the ice, and we see it a little bit more expanded than maybe just a limited amount. Because I do like the black jerseys they have on Saturday night, Saturday home games, but maybe it's time to kind of look in a different direction from that. That's just me. I mean, I like them regardless, but maybe, change it up a little bit here and there. Looking at the rest of the NHL, I'm not going to go over every team because I could probably do an entire episode just based off of that, and I would rather not do it with this one. And I already did tonight with Locked On NHL, so go ahead and do that. But some of the jerseys that popped out to me that I really much enjoyed, and looking forward to Tampa possibly playing these teams while they're wearing them, seeing them in action, is the Rangers one. That's the native New Yorker in me. Anything with the Statue of Liberty on it, I love. Um, I think this logo that they brought it back last year on the reverse retros, bringing it back this year with a little bit of the lighter blue. So love these. And hopefully the NHL goes back to its roots. Hopefully we see kind of this be the norm, where a lot of teams, we saw with Buffalo, they brought back the goat head, and that obviously that's always been a popular logo throughout the National Hockey League, especially with fans. and you've starting to see them bring it back. They're bringing back the red and black ones, and now they're bringing in this mixed with their vintage. So, hopefully we'll see kind of a step back to sort of the NHL's roots, franchise with their roots. New York Islanders with the Fisherman, which I didn't realize until actually, I believe this is what it's called, the Fish Sticks logo. I'm looking at the logo, the article right now. I don't know if that's if that's 100% true. But if that is true, or if it's something different, go ahead and comment below, because if that's called the Fish Sticks logo, that's a terrible name for a great logo. I'm going to say that right now. And then looking at some of the other jerseys, I do very much like the Kings one. Just the classic, the crown. Some people prefer logos that are just like, intimidating or whatever. I like very simple stuff, and this is really what it is. It's simple. It's not crazy. So yeah, I don't like the Panthers one, and I'm not just saying that because the Lightning and them are rivals. The hockey stick with the palm tree is just very strange to me. It's just a weird combination. That's not something, if I'm a player for the Panthers, that's not something I'm rolling out of the locker room with. I'm like, yeah, we're going to go drop 5 goals with a palm tree and a hockey stick on our, that's not something that gives me confidence as someone who's going to go out and compete. The old saying is, you look good, you feel good, you play good. And I don't think that's going to make anyone on that team feel good. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. That's why they're on the ice and I'm sitting here behind a microphone. So, but you look at the rest of the jerseys, I think a lot of teams nailed it. I like Vancouver. I like Washington. They kept it simple. They didn't get crazy with it. They didn't go outside the box. The Jets, I could leave it or take it. Not too crazy about it. The Wild, it was brought to my attention. I thought they literally did the same exact thing from last year. I was told it was not. I was told that, Adam, you are sadly mistaken. Stop babbling. These are the home version jerseys of last year's editions. But as a whole, I even like the Seattle ones. Yeah, I mean, second year in the league, still they nailed it. I mean, there's really not much other than Detroit and Chicago that I could really critique from anybody else's jerseys. I think the one that really stuck out to me that I've always loved, and this just shows how long I've been a fan of hockey and how old I am. Nashville's from 2001 with the actual saber-tooth. Is it saber-tooth tiger? Yeah, saber-tooth tiger. I almost said lion there, but saber-tooth tiger on there with the fangs. Love it. Ottawa's kind of already been rocking these with the jerseys they have now, so and Columbus, I just feel like they changed up the color scheme. But last one, because I just have to throw my shots in against them. I almost want to turn this into a drinking game with Lightning fans. Every time I throw shade at the Toronto Maple Leafs, all right, even though it's a classics logo and I love the jersey scheme, I love the layout, lazy. This is basic. This is basically what you see them wear at every Winter Classic. But you know what? It's one of those hits that never loses its cool. That makes sense. Or never, it's like that old song that you always love, that you haven't heard you hear it all the time, and it's like Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Ashley. I know that's a terrible example, but that's the first song that came to my head. Or like right now with Staying Alive with Drake. That's the song that you're going to hear a billion times and it's still going to bop. So, it's one of those. That's the equivalent. And I guess that's a good equivalent since, it's Toronto Maple Leafs and Drake's from the Six. So, yeah. Yeah, I really like these jerseys as a whole. I think it's really going to help grow the game. It's going to bring in new fans. And I'm excited to see what the NHL does moving forward over the next couple of years as they continue to grow the game through their looks. So wrapping things up on the show, once again, I want to thank everybody for making us your first listen and liking and subscribing to the podcast in advance. Go ahead, once again, follow us on our social media pages. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and you have the ticker below. Go ahead and follow us on there, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as hit that notification button if you're following us on an app-based platform. So we'll look forward to tomorrow night's game against Florida. I'm excited about it. You have to be. It's still too early in the season for this to be depressing. Is it less than ideal to have the Lightning where they are right now in the league? Yeah. But it's 4 games. You got to be optimistic, and that's all we can be. I think, and maybe this is just wishful thinking. I think that they're going to go out there and play well to start off, at least. It's just a matter of staying consistent throughout the game and not allowing the other team to dictate as you progress throughout the game. So we'll be back tomorrow night, or early Saturday morning. When I say early Saturday morning, I mean like 1 a.m. So keep an eye out for that. So in the meantime, that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.